All right, time to do UFC Auckland predictions. This is going to be one of the shorter videos because one, I already filmed this and it screwed up, so I'm a little, a little bit angry about that. Two, a lot of these fights are not ones that I feel are particularly interesting from a technical perspective. I think some of them are going to be very good fights to watch. I just don't think there's a lot of technical intrigue in them. Kim Dong-Hyun Maestro Kim versus Thibault Gotti. Going with Kim here. Gotti, easy to take down. Really is only a kind of effective but limited boxer in MMA with bad takedown defense. It's not a good example against a guy like Kim who, well, this is definitely a bit of a filler fight in terms of I don't think either of these guys are going to be around in, like, say, a year's time. Yeah, it's one that Kim can definitely win. JJ Aldrich versus Chan Mi-jeon. Don't really know fully what to expect from Chan Mi-jeon in the long run. She is really kind of a brawler. Aldrich is an interesting prospect, but one that might be a little too raw, and definitely was too raw for her debut against Juliana Lima, which was a terrible fight to put a debuting fighter up in. That was insane. Going with Aldrich by decision, but it's more just I don't have faith in Chan Mi-jeon's style to be long-term successful. Strasser Kunamoto versus Zak Otto. This one is also kind of really easy. Kunamoto put together a 3-fight winning streak, very improbably, but I mean it was robbing Richard Walsh, and he's durable. He's hard to finish. He comes back for more, despite looking terrified the whole time, and does put an emphasis on not getting hit. So his defense is probably better than it has any real right to be because of that, call it fear. But everything he wants to do, Zak Otto should be able to shut down. And that's kind of Zak Otto's game, is he does really shut you down. He's a good long-range kickboxer with a decent grasp of timing. Not particularly athletic, but also a good wrestler. Kind of powerful, hits reasonably hard enough to discourage you from doing some stuff. Komodo wants to get in the clinch, and I think that's also where Otto likes to fight, and he can definitely keep this standing. And Strasser is one of the worst welterweight strikers, honestly. Like, his offense is not good, and his defense is more him being, I think, afraid to get hit. Otto by decision. John Moraga versus Ashkan Mokhtarian. I've been calling him Mortarian when talking about this fight a lot because he's fighting Moraga, and there's a Warhammer character named Mortarian. If there are any geeks in the audience, they'll recognize it. So that's been screwing with me this whole time. But yeah, I mean Moraga. Admittedly, we said a lot of this about his fight with Matthias Mikolau, which he wound up losing, but Mokhtarian doesn't have the upside that Mikolau does. I don't think. Nothing I've seen suggests that he does. He should be out-grappled here. Should actually even be really reasonably well outstruck. Moraga should be able to take this to a decision, if not actually submitting him. Hopefully the 125-pound division continues to exist. We got two of the fights here that hopefully will excite everyone, and maybe make Dana White eat his words about being absolutely retarded. By the way, Dana White releasing a statement today saying that he is truly driving the Mayweather versus McGregor negotiations. Trust him. Because the last thing I'm going to do is trust Dana White. Moving on. Luke Jumo versus Dominique Steele. Going with Dominique Steele here. Jumo has really bad takedown defense, and Steele can exploit that. He's had a hard time really putting his stamp on fights. Like, he probably won the Court McGee fight, but because he couldn't really fully take advantage of everything, wound up with a loss. He's been on the wrong side of a couple of decisions, and hopefully he can come out here and do some things that he has not been doing. Mind you, note 50, 50, and 21 adds up to over 100% of his victories. I'm thinking that's an error in the graphic, probably. Damien Brown versus Vince from Hell Pichel. Vince Pichel is the better fighter here. But he's had 2 years off. He's 34 years old, which is getting old by lightweight terms. He's had some serious injury problems. And as a result, I find myself being unable to trust him to win this fight. I find myself being unable to understand what he's going to look like after that layoff. He also doesn't really have a lot of ways to finish people. And I mean, he did before he got to the UFC, but then they stopped coming, and his fights in the UFC have not been against, outside of his loss to Hustam Habilov, have not been against high-level competition. So the fact that he's been unable to win convincingly, like by stoppage, really does say something about where he's headed. And again, just being a little bit too old to really transition very far. One of the few guys left from the Ultimate Fighter live season, I think. Although that season's been weird because like guys have continuously like kind of resurfaced from that season, like Joe Proctor recently, where it's like I didn't think you were still on contract, I thought you were retired or something, and Vince Pichel definitely accounts for that. Damien Brown by decision, but it would not surprise me to see Pichel come out here and like just absolutely take his lunch money, because Damien Brown is not that great of a fighter. It really surprised me when he beat John Tuck. And it squared me enough to go with him as a winner pick here, but man, have I seldom felt worse about a winner pick. Alex Volkanovski versus Mizuto Hirota. Volkanovski is a really good prospect. Good wrestler, good athlete, powerful striker if somewhat technically flawed. Hirota is a little more technical but lacks the power. Really good scrambler, good takedown artist, but we've seen him have some serious problems before. Got to go with Volkanovski here, probably by decision, although he's usually a TKO stoppage guy and has really, really good ground and pound. But he hasn't really dealt with a scrambler on the level of Hirota. And I think that's going to give him enough troubles in the early going that he's going to have to adjust, kind of make some adjustments on the fly. And it's going to limit his offense a little bit from what it tends to be and make him have to fight more reserved, more not looking for a decision per se, but it's going to result in him going the distance. So Volkanovski by decision. Tim Elliott versus Ben Gwynn. Tim Elliott by decision. Great scrambler, really good at staying on top in scrambles, high output, which does make a problem for him because he also cuts a lot of weight, and it's a tough weight cut. Very powerful for a flyweight. This should be a really, really fun fight. And Ben Gwynn is no slouch in any areas. Very well-rounded guy. Really looking forward to this, but I feel there's not a tremendous amount of mystery as to who's going to win. Tim Elliott is a guy who definitely loses really only to guys who fight for the title or are champion. That's not quite Ben 10. So, Elliott by decision. Another fun fight is going to be Ion Cutelaba versus Enrique de Silva. Both of these guys have some cardio issues, although Cutelaba's are less distressing because the Jared Cannonier fight was really, really fought at an insane pace for a 205 fight. It felt like it should have been a lower weight class. I'm picking him here by TKO. De Silva can be stopped. He can be hurt. He can definitely be hit. His defense is lacking. So is Cutelaba's. Like, either of these guys knocking the other out is not remotely a surprising thing. But I feel better about Cutelaba than I do about De Silva. I think there's a little bit more to his game, and he's shown himself pretty competitive against, I think, just better competition. Like losing to Misha Serkinov and Jared Cannonier is not bad. That's not an indictment in any way. Dan Hooker versus Ross Pearson. Dan Hooker going back up to lightweight. Two guys kind of in an identity crisis. In Pearson's case, I'm not sure. I think he's not sure if he wants to retire or not. In Hooker's case, I think he's still trying to figure out what his fighting style really is, what can be effective at a UFC level. Going with Pearson, my God, like Pearson is the ticking time bomb. Like we're just waiting for that final shoe to drop about whether he can really fight in the UFC anymore. And this could be the time, but he was competitive with Stevie Ray, who I feel is a better fighter than Dan Hooker. So I got to go with him here. Derek Brunson, Dan Kelly. I traditionally always pick against Dan Kelly. I'm going to continue it. I'm not going to learn my lesson because there's really not a way he should be able to beat Derek Brunson. Brunson is very athletic, good takedowns, despite the low percentage listed there. A powerful striker. His last two fights have been kind of weird. Against Whitaker, he went way, way, way too aggressive. And then against Silva, he went way too passive, and it allowed him to be basically robbed in that fight. I'm hoping he finds the middle ground here, where he's not so aggressive that he just walks right into stuff, but he's not so passive that he loses a decision. So that's where we're going with this. We're going with Brunson by TKO, but Dan Kelly has proved me wrong numerous times, and it may not stop now. Derrick Lewis, Mark Hunt. I'm not going to get into the technical breakdown of this fight because, frankly, these are two massive hitters who can both easily knock each other out. And the way they fight, there's going to be opportunities to knock each other out. And it's the one that connects really more soundly first is going to pick up the victory here. I'm going to pick Hunt because I feel better about the depth of his skills against a guy who's just going to strike with him. And that's really about the only reason, but this is, don't bet on this fight. Take your money and stay as far away from this fight as possible, unless you're going to do like a prop bet where it's like fight doesn't get out of the second round or something like that. There may be something to do there. Not the most relevant card, but up and down, I think all of these fights, except for Kunamoto versus Otto and Kim versus Gotti, have some level of appeal. And I'm hoping it's a pretty good card. I'm hoping it over-delivers, as a lot of the UFC cards lately have. And we'll see. If it can do that, I mean, we're golden at that point. So that is really it. Usual stuff in the description, recap of the picks, and also the usual links. So have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and enjoy the fights.